And we're live.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm fine. You froze just a tad, so I
You
guess
did too. It's weird.
yeah. Well, we'll just keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
We'll play it by ear.
Pray for broadband, right?
I know. So I'm gonna go ahead and ring the meditation bowl to clear our space and energy, and then we can go ahead and get started.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So tell us what's going on with the moon.
So we're like on Friday, the 27th of June. Can you believe we're almost at the end of June?
No.
So we're into the third day of the new moon that occurred on Wednesday in the sign of Cancer. It was at 3:32 a.m. your time. And we still are in a Cancer moon until, let's see, the moon goes into Leo. Well, yeah. So the moon went into Leo early this morning, like at 2 a.m. So we have a Leo moon for the weekend, which that's usually kind of energetic and exciting and dramatic and creative, full of drama. So I did do a article on lionmountainhealing.com about the Cancer new moon. Some of the aspects it had, you know, are lingering through the summer. So it wasn't just like, it happened Wednesday and now it's over. So, some of the things about Cancer, it's a cardinal water sign, which means it's pretty. The cardinal signs are leaders. They're pretty strong-willed, minded people, and the water makes them pretty intuitive. The crab symbol has to do with that hard shell exterior protecting a fleshy inside. So Cancerians can come off pretty, you know, like shy or standoffish, but they're very sensitive. Actually, the key words are I feel. So there's that clairaudient kind of psychic ability where they can hear people's thoughts. And, um, the part about Cancer that doesn't get talked about a lot, I mean, it gets talked about being sensitive and representing the mother. It's ruled by the moon, so it can be changeable and moody. They tend to complain, those kinds of things. But the element of Cancer that I find pretty central to that energy is tenacity. And once a crab clamps its claws on something, it doesn't let go. And Cancers, once they get their minds set on something, they are tenacious. They will, against all odds, get something done. So they're the people, that's part of the cardinal energy. They're people that, you can bank on them doing what they say they're going to do. And so the new moon was conjunct Jupiter, and Cancer rules the stomach and breast area. Jupiter is expansive. So you could physically feel bloated or like your waistline is expanding, whether you're eating more or not. It's just our bodies are magnetic energy that respond to these planets close to the earth. And that is a very like expansive kind of energy. um, it does bring good luck and opportunities. And so I have a Cancer moon that holds hands with Venus in my chart. And I've had a couple of really lucky opportunities for career advancement. this week. So that's one way it can manifest. It's all about the home and family and your sense of security. Um, I was very lucky to stumble upon a very capable carpenter repair person who repaired um, items, wood repair items very inexpensively. So, for me being a pretty strong Cancerian energy, my week has represented, repairs at home, lucky opportunities, whether it was
Mhm.
finding that person that was capable and wasn't going to charge me an arm and a leg, or somebody reaching out with a job opportunity, whatever. But that's some of how it can manifest. It rules land, so you could be looking to buy or sell or develop land. It represents the grave. So, if it's like oppositions to where Cancer is in a chart, that could mean the end of something, the end of your mother's life or father's life, the end of a, long-term relationship. It's the end of the matter, depending on how it's aspected. But these are just examples of how that kind of energy can manifest in real day-to-day life types of living. Um, so with Cancer too ruling the stomach, they tend to hold their emotions in their stomach or have upset stomachs because of their distress or emotions. And upset stomach can be symptomatic of feelings like dread and fear, fear of change or holding a grudge. And herbs like ginger and peppermint, cloves, licorice are all natural healing herbs for stomach upsettedness. Using affirmations like all is well and I face my fears with ease are the mind thought patterns that you want to dwell on if you're dealing with, you know, like chronic ongoing indigestion or, constantly feeling nauseous or whatever. I believe in you can heal your life. And, we refer to Louise Hayes all the time. She made herself famous in the 70s, healing herself of cancer through the power of her mind. The key of it all, the root of that working is your mind has to believe that it can heal your body. So
Mhm.
if you're believing everything that you hear from doctors and pharmaceutical companies that you need that pill or you need that test or that shot, then no, you won't heal your body because you don't believe it can. So it is about the power of your mind and what you believe. So keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out what you believe. Neptune and Saturn are holding hands in the sign of Aries while squaring the new moon. That is a shakeup of our perception. So, um, just like we were talking before we came on, there's more and more exposure to pedophiles and child abuse and trafficking and horrendous deviant kind of behaviors in the underbelly of our society. And that is going to continue into 2026. Secrets, deception, things that we thought were one way really aren't. Um, Journaling and keeping notes on dreams is a very helpful way to piece together, what is your subconscious mind trying to say to your conscious mind. And on that, being a Cancer Venus person, in positive aspect to my Leo sun, and I have like 5 planets in Leo. I've had the most fantastical dreams this week. I haven't wanted to come awake because my dreams have been so cool. And last night, this morning, I did not want to get up. My dream, and you're going to laugh, but I was with Elvis and my mother.
Mm.
I was with Elvis and my mother at this place, this home, having a good time. It was
Wow.
the best dream. And I woke up, I said, oh, I want to go back. That was the coolest dream. It was the coolest dream. It was just really, I mean,
Uh,
really, you know, I
yeah,
mean, we all know
two
I'm a
and one.
fan. I love my mom dearly, but so that's pretty weird, isn't it? That's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So, but for me, this new moon had very positive transits to my natal chart. So some positive things have come through. Just came off a nice long holiday at the beach and relaxation and all of that. So it just depends where these different moon and planet placements are and how they fall in your chart as to what might manifest in your life. Keeping a
Mhm.
journal and notes, even if you just follow where the moon is from a calendar, you can still kind of track, when the moon is opposite your sun or rising, um, that's when things tend to be more dramatic, or you might be more under the weather, or oppositions are stressful energy. They are not things we can control. So, just depending on how interested you are in, you know, tracking astrology or knowing how it affects you personally, that's what it would take, is just some tracking of where things are and knowing your chart. So there's a somewhat wide orb in an opposition between Pluto and Mercury. And this can be a trigger. Pluto triggers period in an opposition to Mercury. And that's, how the mind functions. That could really trigger some communications that could go either way. And so that is Mars in so it's an out of sign opposition. I should make that clear. So when I say orb, every astrologer is different. They might only want 2 or 3 degrees of an orb. This is about a 7-degree orb, which is
Hmm.
wide, but Pluto and Mars are pretty strong energies. So whenever they're dancing with each other, that has a lot to do. That could explain the bombing and war rumble drums that we're hearing out of Iran and Israel, and all that whole narrative on the media trying to, propagandize a war. And that's Pluto Mars opposition very easily. um, and on that front, when I say triggers communication, you know and that the Neptune Saturn conjunction, don't believe what you see. There are uh, illusions, and uh, these are times with the artificial intelligence, especially. You don't know if the person you're seeing reporting on that television screen is real or not. You don't know if the films that they show of place being bombed is from now or from the 1990s. I mean, they really do manipulate uh, news feeds and media to spin a tale to get us all churned up and on opposite sides with each other. And I mean, that's how they retain their power, is by keeping us all upset and arguing with each other about whose side are you on. So don't be on anybody's side. Keep a very skeptical eye on what you're being told and see, and just go slow. This is an energy where scams are rampant. You might a lot of phishing through emails that are not legitimate. It's just a very careful time for communications and discernment for what is real or not. And
Hmm.
um, move slowly, allow people and places to unfold before taking any action. So,
Go sideways.
yes, like a crab, right.
Hmm.
So, taking some of the pressure off of that Saturn Neptune conjunction is a trine to Mercury, which is the discernment and recognition of what is authentic. So, energy is balanced, right? It's a push pull. it's expand, contract. So where there might be aspects that are very challenging and very difficult, everything keeps moving. So what might have been a really nasty opposition one day moves into a trine within a few days, and it relieves the stress. So, that's sort of the dance of the planets, and why we look to, or why, thousands of years people have looked to the heavens for answers. So I did bring up Sean Diddy Combs' chart, and today was closing arguments. Monday, prosecution gets to rebut the defense closing arguments, and the case is turned over to the jury for deliberation. So this is a federal case based on racketeering, extortion, sex trafficking, sexual assault. I forget how many counts there are, but trying to figure out, you've got all these talking heads trying to figure out if they prove their case, and will he get time? And so I wanted to look at his chart. And so Sean Combs was born November 4th, 1969 in New York, like Harlem area. His he's considered like an entrepreneur, rapper, $700 million worth through his record company, Bad Boys, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So his beginnings, I guess, in the 90s, I was telling you before we went on, I think he's a fall guy for a much bigger conspiracy. I think that who he has on film probably doing naughty things with young people under the influence, I think we'd probably be shocked for some of the Hollywood and well-known stars and millionaires in our world who practice satanic rituals, deviant sexual behavior. His defense team in their closing argument was trying to say you can't convict a man for having kinky sexual practices. So does kinky sex include dropping drugs in your drink so you're paralyzed or blackout or don't know what you're doing? I mean,
That
I
would be
don't think so.
consenting.
I don't
No,
think people consent to that.
no.
That's kind of one of the cruxes of the case, is did these people who say they were abused consenting? And my thing is, who consents to being, taped down or tied down and sodomized? Who consents to that? Who consents to having, their head bashed against a wall, or terrorized by some crazy guy all drugged up and drunk? And it's just amazing, some of the things that have come out in the case, with like hotel workers that have testified about the state of the rooms after he's had these weekend freak offs, and security guards that have come forward with what their roles were to go and secure drugs for him, and
Baby oil.
baby oil. Yeah. And
Johnson and Johnson, you better check that out.
You know what else?
What?
They would go to, like, I don't think it's called Fredericks of Hollywood anymore, but these sex toy stores, and buy like the stiletto shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls would have to keep on these 6-inch platform stiletto heels while they were being
Performing.
tossed around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there was some of the pictures were these huge, like, stripper heels. And I'm like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. So when I look at his chart for what's progressed, and comparing it to his solar return chart that would be coming up in a few months. The biggest thing that stands out to me is separation from his money. This is financially devastating him. Um, so all of the payoffs and things that he has made to keep people quiet, I think his bank account is quickly drained. And I say that because in his progressed chart, Saturn and Neptune have progressed to the house that represents money. When Saturn progresses to your second house, that can often mean bankruptcy. You can't get to money. And it's in an opposition to Pluto. So we all know that Pluto is the god of destruction. You know, it is tearing down. It's the tearing down. So here I'm going to go out on a line with what I think maybe a few years from now we'll be seeing of Sean Diddy Combs. So he's being pretty much raked through the coals here. Karma is coming back to bite him from how he's had a decades long of um, some type of a mafioso or mob type mentality guy controlling people and their lives and whether they make it or not with his power in high place executives in the record industry. And so I have no doubt, I think he's going to go to prison for a while. I'm going to say 15 to 20 years. Some of the charges are not believed to be able to stick, but the RICO charge and the trafficking human bodies across state lines, they have established that. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the defense did not call any witnesses.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, so that's very
Okay,
interesting.
what?
Yeah. So that's
So
what
he's
it tells
guilty?
me, that, there are deals in the back rooms about he's going to have to take a fall. But when a guy like that goes to prison with those kind of resources, he'll still get, you know,
Imagine him in the jail, like, is he gonna get his karma then, or is he gonna have, like, his own little whipping, like his,
right.
like
It
the
is sort of like a
saga
hierarchy,
continues inside,
and it's
behind.
all about the money, right? Who can he pay? Can he pay the guards off or the warden off to get drugs into him, and the drugs that he can get to other inmates? I mean, there's a whole diabolical community in the prison system that's corrupt between the
Mhm.
wardens and the security guards. And I'm
I
not saying
I
they
have a
all
friend.
are, but it's proven
No.
over and over that you know, there are prison guards that get female inmates pregnant, and I guess females think they can grant sexual favors to get easier time, or little perks for whatever a perk could be when you're in jail. But um, that's the biggest thing that I see in his chart, is that opposition between Pluto and his progressed Saturn. And it's all sitting on his natal North Node in Pisces. So that is a drug addict,
Mm.
right? So the bottom line is, the guy, he's got his natal Saturn in the third house. He probably had a pretty rough childhood. From the way I can tell about his mother was probably a drinker and drugger, and that's what he was around. He probably saw her with different sexual partners, and she has been complicit with supporting his activities, even though she's, like, I think 80 years old. And so he's 55. He'll be 56 in a few months. And the other thing that stands out pretty big is, so his natal Neptune in Scorpio has progressed Mars sitting on top of it. So that's a Mars Scorpio, a Mars Neptune in Scorpio energy. So what do we know about Scorpio? It's deceptive, it's secretive. Um, the sexuality part of Scorpio can go either way. It can be the monk, it can be the prostitute, it can be um, poorly aspected, it is deviant behavior. So, you know, his solar return has his moon sitting right there. So that's what brings in the mother, where I think he probably had learned behavior from a very early childhood about himself being manipulated by a mother. He could have been, people learn behavior, and the way he has taken, the young Justin Biebers and Usher when they were like, what, weren't they were like 12 years old,
They were
14?
young, like 13, 14, like
Yeah. So I would
teenage.
bet you anything that his mother probably pimped him out when he was a preteen, or he had very early sexual behaviors that's his fuel. I mean, the whole power through sex and drugs is who he is. So, how long does that last? Um, so that those are the biggest things. Uranus does play some roles here that tell me that hey, people are surprised or for it to come out. Like, you know, when um, when criminals have a network, whether it was back in the day when there was prohibition and you had moonshiners running bottles of liquor through the back country roads, or if you have human mules, flying on planes from Ukraine with heroin in their orifices to, get drugs into the country. I mean, our whole world for hundreds of years has dealt with drugs and that cycle of power and having power over people, like, I have something you want, and if I can make you weak through addiction, I have power over you. So this is nothing new. I do think with him it started when he was young. I don't I don't think he had any kind of significant father or disciplinary kind of influence growing up. The progressed Pluto has, in the last, now here, let me just put this caveat on this chart. Nobody knows what time of day he was born. It's shown as unpublished.
What?
So we know the day and the place where he was born. We don't know the time of day. So when we don't know the time of day of someone's birth, we start with noon. And based on events in their life, we can do a process called rectification, which basically, to me, a chart's kind of like a dial, and you can kind of move it minute to minute or hour to hour for certain alignments. Like if you know things, like when a woman had a child, or when a person lost a parent, or had a horrendous car accident, those big life changes that are usually very powerful oppositions in a chart.
Hmm.
So with this chart, we show that he's got Mars in his first house in Capricorn, very controlling person. And when you read about him, you read like he had to have order, right? Everything had a method and an order. And that is a Mars in the first house in Capricorn, or any earth sign. Mars in an earth sign is a control freak. And
Hmm.
I can say that I have Mars in Virgo. I mean, I'm a control freak, especially when it comes to my dogs. But anyway, things that I can control anyway. But if you look at this chart in the last 2 years, the progressed Pluto has sat triggered right on that natal Mars. So, it'd be interesting to know a little more. I just started this today, so I mean, I haven't done a lot of background, but it'd be interesting. Like he lost his wife. She died mysteriously when she was young of pneumonia. And one of the other things that's kind of come out is cyanide poisoning. And that's what they think happened to Will Smith when he went in the hospital, is that he was poisoned. Because when people refuse to continue paying or being blackmailed and threaten to expose them, they tend to disappear. And you can speak to people like Michael Jackson and Prince that supposedly they knew things and that they did not die. They were unlived, or whatever that word is. That cyanide poisoning can present as pneumonia if you've been poisoned. And his wife died of pneumonia, like in her mid 40s. She was a young woman. So he's had some people around him die of pneumonia. That's pretty mysterious. And I don't know when she died, but that would have been an interesting thing to try to help rectify, like the time of this chart more perfectly. So some of these timings may be off, but generally, you know, we've got a person with a stellium in Scorpio, Sun, Mercury, Neptune in Scorpio. And let's see. Um, what else does this have? Let's see. I want to see. He has a Virgo moon, Capricorn rising. So order and organization are his nature. And then we know about Scorpio energy and that it's the extremes, right? You're extremely one way or the other. It's very hard for Scorpio to be in the middle of the road. So he obviously has taken some sexual behaviors to the extreme, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so that's just kind of a cursory introduction. I've been saying for a while that I was going to do his chart. I did finally, try to pin down some of the information, and I am going to go out on a limb to say I do think he's going to be imprisoned. I think he's losing his fortune. But what I didn't finish is the thought. So say he's 55 now. Say he gets 15 years, and when he's 70 years old, he gets to walk out of the prison doors. If he makes it that long, he could be killed in prison.
Mhm.
Um, but in prison, he's one of those stories that you hear about, where he starts evangelistic. You know,
Oh, like turned a new leaf.
right? Like he
Started
becomes
started to
a
have a congregation inside.
right, right, right. So I don't know. That's just some initial impressions I have. I'll try to find out more about his past experiences and see if we can get closer to a time of day. But this really, it's very interesting, just the part about losing a fortune and being exposed for very deceitful. Mars is sexual. Mars was the original ruler of Scorpio before Pluto was discovered. So before the 1930s, when Pluto was discovered, Mars ruled Scorpio, and that's a very aggressive yet deceptive energy, the art of war, keeping your enemies close, and that whole sort of strategic manipulation of people and places and keeping in power and having secrets that keep you in power. The whole thing about gossip is it makes a person feel powerful. If you have gossip about somebody and you can, you've got something special to share, and it gives you attention to be able to say, oh, and that person had an affair with that person, and whatever it is. But that's part of the nature of that Mars Scorpio kind of vibe there. And for any of us that are on the spiritual side of Scorpio, I think we can all admit that we've probably had deviant thoughts, in some of our thoughts that are not um, that are very deep, that are misunderstood by people that don't. Scorpio likes to penetrate. It's what makes that mind work, what makes that person do what they do, what's the nature of that thing. I'm getting that movie in my mind, Silence of the Lamb, where Dr. Lecter is trying to help the FBI agent figure out who the serial killer is. What's the nature of the thing, is what he says to her. And that particular serial killer wanted to covet. So we
Yeah, I mean, I could say that, like, I mean, mine is not like in a very like negative tone, but I like to go to Whole Foods and I'm like fucking nosy. I go to the register where the receipt is still sticking out. Some people they don't have the gall to like rip out the receipt after they purchase it. But for me, I look for those because I want to know what they buy. Like I want to know what's on the thing. Why did they come to this store to buy? Because I want to know what people's buying habits are,
Yeah,
and maybe there's something on there I never knew existed, and I'm just
right.
curious. I was like, okay, well, one time I saw somebody bought sparkling water with like some kind of a fruit. I was like, okay, they're on the good healthy kick. I
Oh,
was
that
like,
sounds
okay.
good.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, okay, they're doing good. And then one time somebody bought a bottle of wine and then some other like miscellaneous stuff. And so it's just really interesting, to see like how people do. And also like for me, I'm a data person. I like to do research and I will dig and dig and dig and find out, okay, well, like, like how many people like this, how many people like that, why do they like that, I mean, and then I'll just put two and two together and I'll come up with the thing. But I will like dig and dig and dig until I can't dig no more, and then I'll come up with a conclusion. And
Yeah,
then yeah, and so like I know it sounds like, like the Scorpio could go like the extremes, but it doesn't have to be like in a negative way.
right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
the lesson for any Scorpio energy is moderation. Is to learn
mhm,
moderation. That not to drive yourself crazy trying to get an answer you'll never have, or um, the brain can needle itself to death over little things. So
mhm,
learning to be okay with not having all the answers, that's
mhm.
sort of learning moderation.
Well, that's
But
more the spiritual and trusting
right,
in the unseen, or you
right,
know, so yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, it's not a blanket statement, but I think because he's a public figure that we've been able to watch over 20 years, and now his demise in federal court over really
Did you
unbelievable sexual abuse of people and
did you
himself, really. I mean, when you think about that lifestyle, he that girl who testified was talking about how she kept yeast infections and urinary infections, and he would refuse to allow her to um, have the sex workers put condoms on. She would be torn and ripped in her private parts. Um, there have been reports of men who have gone to the hospital because their rectum is torn from being drugged and gang banged.
Oh man, it's rough.
It is rough. And
Mhm.
so this is secret deceptive in the tunnels kind of behavior that's been going on for 20 years being exposed. That Pluto crossing an ascendant from the 12th house, the closet, to the first house of your life and where you are is a prime example of that coming out, that dark secret behavior coming out. Supposedly, one of his mansions in Beverly Hills is connected by tunnels to the Hugh Hefner Playboy Mansion.
Mhm.
And that, there is all kinds of scuttlebutt that's come out about how Hugh Hefner trafficked children and young girls. So,
Mm.
you know, um, this is behavior that has been in society, like we were talking about in the Roman times. It was normal for grandfathers to have sex with their young 7, 8-year-old grandsons. I mean, that was like a rite of passage as a man. And the fall of the Roman Empire was once society became androgynous and there was no distinction between female and male. So history does repeat itself. And the thing I think that's interesting in the rap community is um, there's always been like this sort of mentality. And I'm just going to preface this with some of my best friends have been gay. So I mean, I don't care how somebody likes their sex, but
Yeah.
in that community, it was like horrible if you were gay. They were always outwardly um, pretty aggressive and terrible to gays, but yet they were having gay sex. So that contradiction and hypocrisy between that image, that Neptunian illusion that they personify, and what really happens in the dark and behind closed doors, that's an interesting another thing about how patterns of energy can get in certain positions, and as the aspect of chart bring things to light, and that's definitely happening in his little life. But the other thing I'm going to add here is, so we all know that, I have talked about having a health insurance license and a side hustle over the years doing Medicare work. And it's like any other license, you have to do continuing education. And I go to these little conferences and seminars to get my license current. And one of the ones that I went to, a few years back, they'll talk about trends and statistics in the dynamics of, who how many people are turning what age, and they do all these statistics. The highest statistic for AIDS transmission was among Black women, Black married women. They would be married, but their husbands would be having affairs, gay affairs, and bring AIDS virus home. Now, who would have ever thought that? And that
Hmm.
was that was, a tracked um, statistic by actuaries about the biggest population of AIDS transmission. The largest transmission of sexually transmitted diseases was in nursing homes. You would have these, spry little men hopping from room to room, and a few horny women. I mean, you don't think of elderly people as being sexually active, and especially in a nursing home environment, but it happens all the time. And quite one thing I've noticed about elderly people in nursing homes and the way their communities are, it's very much like high school. It's almost like they revert back to being a teenager, and they have their little cliques. And I don't want you at my table, and I want to be moved to another table because I don't want to sit with her. And would you look at that lipstick she's wearing? And oh my God, her hair is, they're very much like that. They've regressed back to that like juvenile kind of mindset. And
Mm.
I don't know about you, but those teenage years were wild. So
No, like there was like a thing in the news where a bunch of fifth grade girls plotted to kill a boy
yes,
at school here, and
yes,
they got ratted out by some girl, because she overheard the plot. But that was actually here in Phoenix, and yeah, but they got caught. But they were going to stab him,
right. So there
and
was a court case not long ago where a high school girl, was sentenced for murder because through her bullying this boy, he killed himself. Do you remember that case? He killed
mm-mm.
himself by um, basically locking himself in his car and running a pipe from the exhaust so that he went to sleep and died of carbon monoxide poison. And the text is on the phone were this girl for days ahead of this would just go ahead and do it. You need to do this, and your family will get over it. And she's sitting there in court looking like a cheerleader. I mean, just looking like a regular girl.
So she was probably like the lead cheerleader, or like the popular girl, you
Probably a
think?
psychopath. I mean,
A psychopath.
some kind of mentally. I mean, what you're describing, unfortunately, happens way more than we think.
Well, I know that with kids, especially because this is true with my boys and every other kid that I've talked to, that there's bullying that's going on in the schools,
Oh yeah, it's
um, and
horrible.
and it seems like the teachers aren't really like doing much about it, or maybe they don't know, especially if a classroom is like 30 kids or something.
And
So it's
all of
kind of,
the the electronics, through the phone. Um, um, there, our society is not teaching that one-on-one social skills. Kids growing up learning how to talk through their fingers texting, and not you and me face to face. You know,
you
you lose that
do that.
energy with an electronic. You know what I mean? And um, it's very interesting, like in the workplace, how you have like four generations all in the same workplace, and how each generation has its strengths and weaknesses about social skills,
Mm.
and um, it's just really interesting to me. But I do believe in cycles, and I do believe that you know humankind will recognize what does or does not work. I think right now we're in the upswing of the thralls of the peak of artificial intelligence, and how that is going to interface with our lives, and people deciding what those boundaries will be,
Mm.
and I tell you anymore, you definitely can train your eye to recognize it, but if you're not paying attention, it is eerily real.
I think it's becoming a little bit more realistic.
it's really, you know, I just wish that there was more influence of, like getting back to nature, putting the electronics away and spending time with your bare feet on the earth
I
and
think that's more of a choice.
yeah,
So, like, if based on like your upbringing, I think that's where
right.
karma comes in. Like, when you get born into a family, you choose like how you want to be brought up or live and what kind of karma you want to deal with. But hopefully, like, the new kids that are growing up, hopefully their family is incorporating more outdoor activities rather than like just being indoors all the time,
Or
and
parents not using phones to babysit their kids. I'll see parents put electronic in a kid's lap, and that's keeping that kid occupied because the parent just doesn't want to be bothered. And that's where you've got kids coming out of school that they don't know how to have a conversation, they don't know how to read or write. I don't know of all school systems, but I know around this region years ago they took learning how to cursive write out of the curriculum.
mhm.
I mean, there's kids out there that don't know how to spell their name. They're used to typing and everything being digital or reading a face of a clock. So
And more it's more digital than the traditional clock,
I guess analog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
analog.
It's
Mhm.
interesting, and we are in the thick of it, in the beginning of it, with Pluto in Aquarius. So we've got 20 years of this high tech um, technology interface with humanity, and
Well,
the
I think it's interesting. Did you know that Meta came out with those special glasses that you can look into it and you can see like, oh, Meta, how much is this worth? And then the glasses will talk to you and stuff, and then you can actually record stuff with the glasses.
it's really weird,
Uh, I priced it out. It was like $1,200, so it's not like not affordable. But if you want that tech piece, for the tech heads,
right?
I think it would be an interesting like toy, to play
Yeah,
with. It's kind of like having a cell phone, but
I
for
think I think having the medical piece of it um, should hopefully bring positive outcomes to, you know, um,
how they're
recovering from
incorporating.
strokes. And I'm one of these cynical people. I believe they do know how to cure cancer, but it would be an economic boon for them to cure cancer because it's such an industry.
Well,
It
did you hear that thing with RFK? How he was able to take out like a certain chemical out of like a
Yes,
flu shot or something?
yes,
And I think that's okay. One less ingredient is great.
right, right, right. I know, and I guess just people being more aware of their bodies and the environment and your responsibility,
Hmm.
and not just mindlessly, you know,
Going with the flow with.
going with the herd.
Hmm.
Yeah. So interesting. I brought out a deck that I've had for the longest time, but I know that I've never used it on any of our shows. This was an Austrian artist, Klimt.
Hmm. Interesting. It's gilded with gold.
Yeah, he was kind of an abstract artist a long time ago, kind of looking a little bit like Picasso, but he had his own kind of look. So I don't know. I was I was just wanting to use something different.
Mm, okay, yeah. Well, I guess I will use the spirit
Spirit. All right.
animal oracle. I don't know. I've just been connecting with spirit animals lately.
Yes.
I've yeah, it's like it's been a thing. And you had mentioned that your boss was in Greece for a
Yes.
bit. I have a friend. She was in Ireland, but now she's in Greece. And
Yes.
she's on one of the islands right now, and she caught a goat staring at the wall.
I love it.
And I was like, "What is the goat staring at?" She said, "I don't know." And then she sent me a picture. I was
Goats
like,
waiting for that wall to
yeah,
move.
to move or something. Yeah, I said there must be a portal in that wall.
Right. I
So
loved
yeah.
Greece. I never made it to like Athens or the big places, but I was in very remote, like archaic kinds of islands. And
Mhm.
Kos is where Hippocrates taught and where the first known hospital was in that we know of. And
Oh,
the modern medical community is completely lost the grasp of the Hippocratic Oath. They get their medical license and they take this Hippocratic Oath, and they probably have no clue who Hippocrates was or what he taught
mhm.
2,500 or more years ago. And of course, when I went, it was different economic times. It was very cheap to be there.
I think it still is. She told me to ride a ferry. It's $7. And the fruits and vegetables, she bought like a lot of fruits and veggies for like 20 American dollars, like more so that we would get for $20 that
Right.
goes in the grocery store. And plus the quality of the foods, has obviously it's different.
So they have to have a lot of stuff shipped in because they can't grow. Like to get a salad there is like tomatoes, olives, onions, and very little lettuce. And
Mhm.
um, I loved it there. I still in my mind sometimes go back to looking out over those islands and water, and it is just places that time has never touched. Oh, I think you froze. Are you?
Yeah, you too. Hi.
Oh, that's weird. We both, you freeze for me and I freeze for you.
Yeah, I know. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but
It's got to be the internet connection.
uh,
So we
okay.
have Aries, right?
Yes.
So we'll do, how about we do, so we know we're in the tail end of new moon energy, but how about we pose the question for like the Leo weekend? We have,
Okay, yeah.
we have a Leo weekend with some very positive trines. Moon trine, Chiron, Mercury trine, Neptune. That's very fantastical, dreamy, cool kind of energy. Yeah, Moon trine, Chiron, that's healing and opportunities to heal. And uh, so, yeah, Leo weekend. How about that?
Oh, I'm all for it.
Since
Yeah.
we're kind of past the new moon, not all those different aspects, but still, we're here and now and going into a weekend. So let's think about that.
Okay, yeah.
Did you freeze again?
No, I'm here. Like, can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, we need to have a bobblehead every once in a
I
while,
know.
make sure we're not frozen. Interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
I have this. It's a parrot spirit, and it says, "Watch your words."
Let's see. I have the wheel of
Hmm.
fortune.
That looks really Pretty. I like it. Um,
Parrot spirit. What does it say? Watch your words. And the
mhm.
wheel. So isn't the wheel about what goes around comes around?
Mhm. Also it's karma. Watch your words, Aries.
Right. So
So try not to be so quick to say something or do something because what goes around can come around, I guess.
so we have Saturn at the first degree of Aries right now, where we've had a few years of Saturn in Pisces. We are now moving into Saturn in Aries, and that is about oh, breaking boundaries. It's a creative energy. It's kind of like coming into your boss energy. Your own authority within yourself.
Mm.
So yeah. So
Well, maybe with the
Aries
fire
needs to
energy
so Aries needs to keep a lid on their compulsive temper.
behavior, yeah.
Yeah, that's
That
what I
makes
would
sense.
say.
Okay, so next we have here Taurus.
And so we've got Venus in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus. They're not really, let's see, they're 9 degrees apart. So that's pretty wide. What have you got there? Moth spirit, surrender now.
Mhm.
I've got the 7 of Pentacles. So
Hmm.
Taurus has something to do with their money this weekend.
So, some of Pentacles is like planning,
Yes.
having patience and planning. And I guess Taurus, you just have to surrender. Just try not to force it. Just kind of go with the flow.
These are
Surrender.
pretty cards, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're really pretty.
Here's that moth is too. They're very artistic too. We're going very artsy tonight with our cards.
Mhm.
So yeah, 7 of Pentacles. Some kind of financial element for Taurus this weekend.
I would
Maybe
say,
some. Maybe some. What did I say? Venus and Taurus and Uranus. Maybe some unexpected expenditures for Taurus.
that's always nice, especially when it's like the end or the first of the month.
Well, this week I've had these repairs done only because the young man needed a little extra cash, and he charges next to nothing. But when you do a couple of repairs and buy wood and materials, and this week has been a little
Extra.
difficult. Yeah, a little extra.
Yeah.
Be a lean next week.
Yeah.
We got
Oh.
Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini, I have spider spirit and it says make your dreams real.
And I have the Knight of Wands. So this is a
Oh.
fire energy.
Yeah, so like be passionate, like take the lead. Mm. Put things into action is what I'm getting. So if you've been dreaming about something, now it's time to do something about it.
Yeah, we're not too far out of Gemini with the moon and the sun both. Yeah.
Hmm. This spider looks really like, okay, remember, like, well, if those who have the American dollar, doesn't that look like the design that goes
Pyramid.
on
It
the dollar?
does.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
looked at that. That's weird.
And it's a 56, which is an 11,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is the one and one, like the twin symbol.
Mhm. Make your dreams real, okay,
Make your
Gemini.
dreams real. Spider is also believed in Native American folklore to have brought the alphabet to mankind because the first letters were formed by the spider in their web. So it's supposed to be a reminder notice to communicate if you see a spider.
Okay. Interesting.
I have a friend that went to the emergency room this week. She isn't sure if what bit her was a tick or a spider, but she's got this big old whelp on her leg that's all infected. She was driving down the road and she felt something on her leg, but she was driving, so she just kind of reached down and she knows she picked something off, and she wasn't sure if it was a spider or a tick, and she flinged it out of the window, and then it like got real swollen. So when she went to the urgent care, they said it was either a tick or a spider, and they put her on antibiotics because whatever it was bit her was kind of a nasty bite.
Well, that something happened like that to me before. I don't know what bit me, but the conclusion that the doctor thought was that it was a spider bite. And then they gave me something that they treated with people for was it anthrax or something.
Oh wow,
I had a big donut-sized thing on my stomach. I
wow,
even got X-rays done on it. They couldn't find nothing. It was just like a mass. It was a
wow,
thick mass and it was hurting. I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, I thought I was gonna die.
something poisonous.
I told my mom, I said, I can't take the kids to school. She's like, okay, I'll take them. I said, I need to go see a doctor. Like, I think I'm gonna die. Like, she's talking about taking the kids to school. I said, what about me? Like,
Yeah.
I gotta drive myself to the hospital.
How did it clear up? Did it itch when it started clearing up or anything like that? Or peel?
I can't recall. I just remember it started off small and it grew into a big, like bloaty, like
Right.
area. And it was just like a inflamed, thick
Wow.
mass. Yeah,
Wow.
and the doctors they couldn't find out like what it was. And I told them, I said, when I went to go see the Buddha, out like the jade Buddha was out in the field and it was dark. So I'm assuming maybe a spider crawled up on me and bit
Right.
me that way. I don't know. I didn't know until the next day. And then I was sweating. So I was like, oh, this isn't like
This
right. Like,
isn't good. Yeah.
I don't know. My stomach hurts. And that's why ever since then, I've been like really scared of spiders.
Yeah.
But because of that, and I just came back to see the Karmapa in New York. I was
Yes.
like, "Is this my instant karma? I don't
Yeah.
understand what this is." Like, I went to go see Buddha and I got bitten by a freaking
Yeah.
spider, and this hurts. I was like, "What is this?" And ever since then, like I moved to a place where they had a bunch of spiders. I'm like, "Oh, I'm fucked." I was like, well, I just
Ah,
have to let them live. Like I don't understand. Like I don't know what to do. So I lived with the spiders and then I told the maintenance guy, I said, "Can you please like kill them for me?" I don't want the karma to be on
right.
me. He says, "Well, uh basically it was because of the trees. It made it like a nesting ground
Right.
for spiders and stuff. And so I just dealt with it. But from then on out, I just get me a glass jar and something thin, like a cardboard, um,
Oh yeah.
scrape the damn thing out and then take it somewhere else. But yeah, that's my spider story. Oh no. Anyway,
Cancer, Queen of Pentacles.
and I have butterfly spirit. Transformation is beautiful.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Queen of Pentacles is a queen of abundance.
Yes.
So
And we've
that's
got
good.
quite a lot going on in Cancer right now with the moon, well, the tail end of the moon, the Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, part of fortune. So quite a lot of energy in Cancer right
Cancer.
now.
Well, they are going through a transformation and it looks like it's money or or something grounded and solid. So that's good.
Maybe
Yeah,
breaking loose some things, you know.
I have your number 11 too. So, um could be with your twin, could be with some sort of balance that is needed. So that's
This
good.
woman's face is kind of, her expression's kind of interesting.
She looks poised.
I was going to say wise.
Mm.
Interesting.
Mhm. Well, maybe Cancer has gained some extra knowledge of some sort. Some
I know this Cancer moon Venus has had some wild dreams this week.
they were good dreams, so you
Good
know.
dreams. Good dreams I didn't want to come out of, boy. And I'd like to go back to.
Well,
That's always
maybe.
good when you come out of a dream. You're like, oh, I want to go back. I want to go
Yeah.
back there. That was fun.
Well, maybe it'll happen again.
You best believe when I put my little head on a pillow tonight, I'm going to be at the last scene I can remember from last night.
No, all you do is you just play some Elvis and then fall asleep to that, and then you'll be there. That would be a way to get into that.
Yeah, that was so weird. That was so weird. Now, you
Mm.
know, I'm not talking about Elvis. I'm talking about the Elvis guy that I go to see.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know.
That's why I was so like, what? And my mother? What? And the thing about my mom in a dream is it's so rare that she shows up in a dream. So, so rare. And I get so excited. But see, Cancer moon, you know, Cancer is the mother. So that really makes a lot of sense.
Maybe it
I
was
always
that.
get so excited when I see her in a dream, like, oh, you're here, you're here. Oh, and look what I got, a pregnant Eight of Pentacles.
What?
The Leo.
I have armadillo spirit. It says set healthy boundaries. Hmm. I
This
guess
is,
try not to like go make babies.
well, two people and the Pentacles. I mean, this feels pretty fortunate. Birth, you know, something maybe new money or new job or
Mhm.
new
Mhm.
work. And what does that say? Set healthy boundaries.
Mhm. You know, because the shell, kind of like the Cancerian shell, the
Yes.
armadillo has that hard exterior. So maybe that's what the healthy boundaries is. Oh, maybe it's about work. Eight of Pentacles.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So
Set
for your
healthy boundaries.
card, you know, I see three going. Oh, is that four? Hold on, love. One, two, three,
It's
four,
eight.
five, six, and there's two out there. So the three of pentacles, like going side by side like that, is just like having two people to come together to work on like balancing the work aspect. And then there's two that's just like juggling, like
This
uh
feels very
heavy. It feels
collaborative, you know, like two people pretty like
well, it's three now, like it will be three.
yeah, maybe it's twins.
Oh God.
She
Well,
looks
she is
pretty pregnant.
yeah, she's out there. That could be a pentacle too, nine of pentacles.
Yeah.
I guess,
Interesting.
yeah, just set healthy boundaries. That's a lot. That makes me feel kind of bloated because you were talking about how like maybe this moon will make you feel a little bloaty.
Yeah. Little expansive waistline with Jupiter and Cancer. Jupiter expands, Cancer represents the stomach and breast area.
So things are a bit tender and a little bit
Yeah.
more. Uh, okay, next we have Virgo.
Let's see. We have Mars in Virgo. So that's another interesting thing. I have Mars in Virgo. So Mars is sitting around where my natal Virgo is. And it has been very active lately with getting things done. And you know how you'll go through periods where you just feel stagnant and things aren't getting done. And so I would say that when a planet comes back sitting on where you have a natal planet, it tends to bring a release of energy, a escalation of activity. So Mars in Virgo is very controlling, and it seems like this week I have dealt with my dog's. I have a dog with like yeast infection on his skin.
You
So
know what? I just bought the
antifungal.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
yeah,
Because Luna kept scratching her ear
yeah.
and I'm like, what the hell? And it smells like,
What
like
about her paws? Is she?
she's always like licking and stuff, but I
Yeah,
I don't trim her nails often like as I should. So I know she needs that. But for the longest time, like she's been scratching her ear and I haven't had time to take her to the vet. And I remember one time that the vet told me to put like this solution in her ear and just kind of rub it and just kind of like
right.
do that. And I didn't know they sell that shit on Amazon. I
Yeah,
was like, what? I was like, man, I was I'm gonna go buy a bottle. So the bottle came today, and after this live, after I have dinner, I'm gonna give her a bath. I'm gonna squirt some of that
in her
stuff
ears. Yeah,
and see how she does because, like, when she comes to me, she just has that weird, funky smell. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, get away. And then she's like all like trying to rub her stuff on me. I'm like, no, honey, like I don't want that.
So, um, a thing I saw online too about yeast in dogs is a solution that's chamomile tea, like steep some chamomile tea and add, I don't know, I think it was like a half a cup of chamomile tea and a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and like 10 drops of lavender oil,
Oh.
and that in a spray bottle. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
interesting, we're talking about this. Virgo rules small animals. So we'll also
Oh.
be talking about our small pets and dealing with
Mm-hmm.
things with them. I have tried the apple cider vinegar.
Have
I've
you, like,
tried,
put it in their ear, or you said a spray bottle and it's just more surface level?
yes, Leon had some yeast on a foot that he was chewing at. And when I
Mhm.
sprayed apple cider vinegar on it, he went like this, like it stung. But what I've been dealing with is on his forehead. Like it started one little spot and now it's like a cluster. It's like where they
Oh.
sweat.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I tried Neosporin and I tried
I've done
these.
that too, and it works a little bit, but then it's not like the full,
Well, yeah.
like, treatment.
So
So
I sent a picture to my vet because it was worrying me that it was spreading. And I picked up a prescription a little while ago and he's had one pill of it's some sort of flucasode or something. It's an antifungal pill.
mm. Well, the chemical in this is like cortisol or something like that. It's the same shit that they put in, like, dandruff. medication.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. I
Interesting.
was like, "What?" And this is like prescription strength. And I'm like, "What the hell?" Uh, like for me to get the same thing because I have seborrhea dermatitis, and then
Yeah.
I take like some of those chemicals and stuff for my hair, and I was like, "Is that what they put in theirs?"
Right.
I'm just amazed because that's affordable, but
Yes.
the shit that we have to pay is like 10
Just to
times the
walk in
amount.
the door. Yeah.
Yeah. But I recognized like this stuff they sell on Amazon. When I went to go see my doctor, because I pay per visit, he was like, "Okay, well," and they do it like per session, right? I come in, they're like, "Okay, this is like the thing." And then they come back with the diagnosis. And then he says, "Well, would you like to have like the medicine? And we will do the medicine for her." And I
Right.
said, "Okay, well, and then they charge for the service. And then
Right.
they're like, would you like to, get like this extra thing?" And I had no idea that they would sell this stuff outside. I thought it was like a prescription
Right.
that you would
Right.
need from the doctor, but no, they sell this online. And I'm like, man, did I get duped? Because they were nickel and diming me for every little
Well, it's
service.
it's convenient, you're right there and they can put it in your hand and they take advantage of that. But as long as she gets better and it's clearing up.
Yeah, but for the people who don't know, it's
Right,
like easy for them.
right, right.
So that's what I learned. And then, but yeah, anyway. So we're on Virgo.
And yes, Mars is in Virgo, and this is Two of Wands. You've got Parrot Spirit again.
Mm-hmm. It says, watch your words. I guess make a decision. Watch your words. Try not to be too hasty. What is it? She's like looking back at those wands, like, which one should I take?
I know her hands are in an odd position too.
Mm-hmm. What is that design on her dress? It's like circle and triangles,
It looks like
dots.
it
Mm.
reminds me of the Star Trek Enterprise symbol. Something kind of,
So maybe she's saying about transporting somewhere. Oh yes, please.
yeah.
Huh?
And what kind of pods are these? Those are some weird kind of plants.
Hmm. I don't know. They look like pieces of wood stuck in ground.
And the way her arms sort of parallel the wands. Interesting. These cards are interesting.
Hmm. Well, watch your
This is
words,
what the
Virgo.
backside of these cards looks like. It's like mosaic work, like they've pieced together inlays of.
Oh, like a quilt almost. But it's all like circles and triangles.
The spiral.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
They're really different, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
If I showed you, I'm sure if I went through here, I would find there's a famous painting I'm sure you would recognize. It's called The Kiss. And it's like, I think what kind of put him on the map. I know I've seen it in here. So you had parrot energy for Virgo.
Yes. Hmm.
Watch, it's going to be the last one that I look at. There's some wild looking cards in here. Oh, here. This is a version of it, but
Mm.
That's not what I shuffled for Libra. What did you get for Libra?
Oh, actually, two came out. It fell on the ground.
Oh.
One is lizard spirit, and the other is starfish spirit. And it says, "Dream the world into
Mm.
yeah, and then open to infinite
Oh,
possibilities."
I love that. And this is the chariot.
So Libra has the go ahead to. I don't know. It just seems like whatever that is up in the dream space,
Yes.
actually is time to manifest in the 3D space.
Well, the North Node is in Pisces, so that's, and we've got Pluto that's gone into, oh, not Pluto, I mean, what do I mean? Well, we've had Saturn come out of Pisces. Um,
Yeah, I see. All I see is her bush.
I,
It's like that angle, and then I think her hairy armpit. Like,
she has no shame.
yeah, she's just out there.
She's free. She's riding her chariot.
Yeah.
This also came out, the Five of Cups, which is this guy holding a skull.
Oh, interesting. That looks like that Beetlejuice
Oh, yeah.
thing with the head off.
What a wild movie that was.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what movie I saw when I was away?
Mm.
Rocky Horror Picture Show. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, a long, long, long time ago.
Wild movie, yes. Tim Curry, gosh, he just nailed that role. Oh, oh, my cheeks hurt when I finished watching it. I've been smiling and laughing so much watching it. Just a sweet transvestite from Transsexualvania. Anticipation. So in the theater around here back in the late 70s or so, when that first came out, whatever happened on the screen, the audience would participate. There's a part where
Mhm.
he throws a cup of water, and everybody in the audience would throw a cup of water. The part where Meatloaf comes in on a Harley Davidson, this guy would come in the theater on a Harley Davidson and drive around and go out.
Mhm. Mhm.
Different parts. Um, those were the main two I remember. And doing the time warp, of course, when they did the time warp, people would stand up and I forget, it was like to the left, to the right, and turn around. Do the time warp.
That's like the interactive theater thing. I think you were telling me about before, right?
It was awesome. They just
Mm.
don't do that anymore.
No.
But there is a 50th anniversary of Rocky Horror Picture Show, I think for 2026. And it's going to open in London as a stage show. And it's already sold out.
Hmm.
So that would be neat to catch that here somewhere.
It's been a very long time since I went to like a theatrical performance.
Yeah.
I think the last one that I saw was something called Dracula.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That's when we had like a little theater in the town that I was in. And the theater was really quaint.
Yes.
It had old school vibe to it with the curtains and the way that the layout was. So it was actually a really nice experience to
I
go
went to
to.
see, it was last year, the musical Tina, where the
Mhm.
lady did the wife on Tina Turner.
Mhm. Mhm.
She did a good job. I go to
Yeah.
music things in the theater a lot, but that was the last like play or something.
Yeah, it's been a while for me actually.
I love getting out to shows like that. Actually, I did see, do you remember, was it in February? I went to that Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh yeah, you did. Mhm.
Yeah, that was good. That was different. That was very
Mhm.
different. It was like five cocktails and five Edgar Allan Poe stories. And it was all like six different actors, and they would take turns coming on stage and performing one of his stories while others would come out into the audience and serve you these very interesting cocktails.
Mhm.
One of
Mhm.
them, and they were all themed after the stories. One of them was like, it's going to sound strange if I can remember it, but it was delicious. It was like milk, whiskey, and cinnamon. It
Hmm.
was delicious.
That's all you can remember.
At first, I thought that doesn't sound very good. It was delicious.
Yeah,
All of
you
them were delicious.
had to have been there to try or to
Yes, I'd have to
experience.
look back and remember that again because that I don't, I didn't think I was going to drink them, but they were just small cocktails, right?
Yeah.
I tell you, I left there with a buzz. I was driving home. I was like, I shouldn't be driving because the little promotion thing said you could request a mocktail. So my plan was, well, I'll drink the first two and then get mocktails for the rest of them. But they never gave you a chance to get a mocktail. They just kind of came out with trays of these drinks and put them in
Yeah,
front
they
of
just
you. You know?
pick one. Like,
Yeah, that was good. I'm glad I went to that.
mhm,
People
mhm.
kind of dressed in that period.
Yeah, that's really quite interesting, you
They
know.
called it the Speakeasy. It was the Edgar Allan Poe Speakeasy. And it's
Mm,
a tour around the country. If you look it up in your local guide, maybe it'll
mhm,
come.
mhm, mhm. You know, I don't know if this place has something like that. It's everything here is so modern, and I don't know. I think I would have to dig deep, you know.
I think here there's so much of it because it's a college area. There's so much like art and drama from the colleges.
Mhm. You know, but well, the area that I'm at, there is like a movie production because I'm in
Right.
like the like desert area, and they do a lot of like films.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure you would find stuff.
I've actually seen like you could be a stand-in on one of the
Yes.
movie
An
sets and
extra.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an extra, no experience. You just have to
Just show up. Yeah.
yeah.
In the crowd. My
I was like,
brother
shit.
used to do that.
I was like, in this heat, hell no.
Yeah.
Like,
No air conditioned trailer for you.
I was like, fuck no. It's like it's hot out here. There is no way. But I saw that and I thought it was interesting because I've never, come across anything like that
Yeah.
before. So anyway.
Interesting. Well, what do you have for Scorpio?
I have bad spirit. It says,
Ooh.
I can't read backwards.
It is a rebirth is assured.
Okay.
And this is the Knight of Cups,
Oh, okay. So a rebirth of maybe someone coming
an
to.
emotional new leaf or something,
Mhm.
turning over a new leaf emotionally, letting
Mhm.
go of some emotional burden.
Maybe it's someone from the past coming back for a redo. It's a rebirth is assured.
And
Mhm.
the Knight of Cups, he kind of moves kind of at a moderate pace, I think. He's not quick or slow.
Mhm. Mhm. Usually if they're holding a cup, they're not galloping with it.
Yeah, they're just kind of taking their
Holding
time.
it. Yeah, like sipping on the cup. Mm. Interesting.
I like it.
Yeah, so
It goes along with Scorpio, rebirth, regeneration.
mhm. Okay. So next we have here Sag.
So I just put this together, but both my mother and the Elvis character were Sages in my dream.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Sages, yeah.
Well, look, I have peacock spirit. Let it shine. Like, let it shine.
Oh, and this is Four of Pentacles.
Mm.
So isn't that kind of like bored or not really seeing all the. So peacock to me is about your guardian angels, and all those little eyes are like all eyes are on you.
Mhm. And there's like a light shining out of the heart.
Yeah,
Um, for me, the Four of Pentacles is like, holding back. Um, or, because it's stable, it feels secure. Like you're good on four. Not sure if you want five. you know,
right, right.
uh,
Structure.
yeah. And so,
So
yeah,
you're
I feel like
stable, so it's time to let it shine.
you're like open up, Sag.
They love their freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about my mother, I used to always say, her being a Sag, was she'd shoot from the hip. You always knew where she stood. She never held
Mm-hmm.
back. And it was all about truth and justice and fairness. So, like, if she saw someone being bullied or treated unfairly, she'd be the first one to get and and let somebody know that whatever they were doing was wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Especially if it involved children.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Very no nonsense kind of energy.
Yeah. Trying to think of like what the only adult Sag that I personally know is my sister, my ex sister-in-law. She she's a Sag and she loved books. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I remembered. Like she loved books, like crime mysteries and like
Yes.
wanting to solve like.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's like a part of Scorpio.
My
Maybe
mother
she was
did the same thing. She read,
really.
yeah, and there
Yeah,
were
she was always,
mysteries. She would go see the authors of these particular detective books she liked.
and she loved poetry. She loved going to those poetry like meetups and
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, so she was like kind of nerdy in a way, um but she was,
Intelligent.
yeah, like I think she was like too nerdy.
Okay, we've got Seven of Swords.
And I have groundhog
Oh
hog spirit.
no,
Yeah.
time to let go. Oh no, I can't believe Groundhog appeared today. I cannot believe that. I
Yeah,
cannot
finally.
believe that. For those of you that don't know, as I've been battling groundhogs in my yard, my whole neighborhood. So a guy at work calls them whistle pigs
Uh-huh.
because of
Uh-huh.
the noise they make. So I was leaving a
Oh.
little early the other day and I poked my head in his office. I said, "Hey, I'm going to go catch me some whistle pigs."
But this one's looking cute.
They are
He,
cute, but they
yeah.
will eat some vegetables.
Yeah.
And they'll put a hurting on leafy greens.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is how I feel about my groundhogs. I'm
The
miserable.
Seven of Swords.
So, what does this mean for Capricorn?
Hmm. I don't know. I'm a Capricorn. Time to let go. I mean, this groundhog is holding a heart, but I don't think there's anything to, that we're I'm holding on to something, and like feelings wise, but the Seven of Swords, it could mean betrayal. It could also mean strategy. So perhaps it could be like, I don't know.
It's also like a lot of fast energy.
Mm-hmm. I know that to your point. I've been working throughout the whole week, and I've been working with the program. I'm trying to build my own software, and I get frustrated. I get frustrated because it's not doing the thing I want it to do, and I could sit here in front of the computer and work on it all day long, but I know I won't get anywhere.
Yeah,
If I take a step back and just like, I don't know, like every 10
or-
minutes come back to it or something.
organically. Yeah,
Yeah, then things start to make sense. I don't feel rushed, you know. It is what it is, kind of energy. So I think what this means for Cappy is just let go. Like if you want to hold on to something, if you want to like control like how things are playing out, just let go. You know,
right.
it's probably best.
Detach, detach.
Mhm. Yeah, and
So
your
what is he holding
depiction,
in his little paws?
it's like a heart, but also looks, I don't know, I think that's a necklace,
Oh,
so it
he's
looks
got a
like
necklace on. He stole my necklace. Oh, I'm telling you. So I had two adults and three babies several weeks ago, and they're brazen. I mean, they get up on the ramp of the shed and sun and roll and chirp and play. And I would come out, and my cucumbers and everything would be like gnawed to the ground. So I put rat poison under my shed, and I'd been talking to them, and I took my dogs out there and let. This was before I put the poison down. I took my dogs out there and let my dogs put their head up under the shed, because my neighbor says she sees them, but they're not camping out, and she thinks it's because her dog is always around the yard. So I don't know if it's a combination of I made dogs known present. I let my dogs actually go up under where they're burrowing. And
Mhm.
then after that, I put rat poison down. And it's been a solid 7 days. My garden is doing great. Um, I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want to say I think they're gone and then I'll see them tomorrow. But
and,
this whole
and like your
neighborhood has
hedges are
just been overrun with them. And I
oh,
live in an area where I can't shoot them.
well, you can
So
try them,
there's
right?
this exterminator that'll trap them and euthanize them, and it's $600 every time he brings the trap and does that.
No, I've seen like you can buy the trap. It's a little bit cheaper.
I'm
Um,
not gonna. I don't know what to do with them when they're in the trap. I don't know what to do. I don't want to deal with that.
well, you take it, put it in somebody's truck, maybe your neighbor's if he
Yeah.
has one, and then go out to the deep woods somewhere and let them go.
Well, that's what I thought. But when I called the wildlife people, they said in the state of Virginia they do not trap and relocate, that they trap and euthanize because it's more humane. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they were like, "Well, it'd be like if I trapped you and took you out to California, you wouldn't know where to find food or water. And it's just more humane to just euthanize them." And I'm like, animals have instinct. They will find food and water, you know.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's what they told me. And they said that they have a recommendation of this exterminator, and he traps them and euthanizes them, and it's $600 for him to make a trip out to your place. And I'm like, I don't have $600 for that.
Mhm.
So then I
Mhm.
went to this old timey feed store, kind of out of the way where all these old farmers come. And I went in there. I was like, okay, what do y'all do about groundhogs? And the guy goes, Oh, they're such a menace, you know. And I had read online you could put down coyote urine because
Mhm.
coyotes prey on them. That so if they think coyotes are around, they don't hang out. And I read mixed reviews on whether or not that works, but I got he said, you know, you could try some rat poison. So I have put that down. But I for days I'd go out there and I'd talk to him. I say, look, I don't like you eating my garden. I don't want to hurt you, but if you keep it up, I will kill you. And so I was trying to, like, you know, have a come to Jesus moment with the groundhogs.
Yeah, at least you talked to them. You
Yeah,
didn't
I
come
gave them
like,
fair warning. For a couple of weeks, I've been circling that shed, going, "Okay, you're being evicted. You have a 10-day notice. I'm going to get serious
so
with."
the sheds are coming out from underground, or like is it adjacent to it? Like where
They
is this
burrow
home?
under the. There's like a gap between the bottom of the shed and the ground, and
Mhm.
they burrow under a fence to get from yard to yard.
Oh, they got their own tunnel system.
They have a whole community. I can be out on the road and look down the road and see one come up out of a culvert and cross the road into the next culvert.
Oh, geez.
So when I read about them, so they do
You know
hibernate.
what you do?
What?
You pour cement down the hole.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
You know how I learned about that? Because they found a secret tunnel from Mexico going to like a restaurant in
Oh
California, and
yeah,
then they said, "Well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put cement down the hole so nobody can go through the tunnel." I was like, "Damn!"
that's a good idea. I poured gas down there a few weeks ago, and you heard them chirping. I mean, they were visibly upset about that, but they didn't leave.
Oh,
And
yeah. Well, see if we can put like cement in them holes.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Hmm.
I so the other thing that I found at a place called Tractor Supply, I went in there. I was like, okay, what do you do about groundhogs? They recommended taking sheet plastic and wrapping it around the gap where the shed is, and
Hmm.
like using brick or something to hold the plastic up. And they sold me these. It's called Gas a Gopher, and they're these gas cylinders, and you pop it and throw it under there, and it's supposed
What
to
the?
gas them out. But do you know what wrapping this shed with sheet plastic and trying to secure it with brick or rock is involved? I mean, that's kind of a
That's
project.
yeah, that's kind of like a man's project, you know. It's like, all right, you're going down.
Yeah.
Like he's got to build a fortress, and they're gonna throw the thing in there like you're in war.
And so then another strategy was dig down and like plant like heavy chicken wire to like close up that gap.
They're getting really creative
But you
now.
have to like really like get it down in the ground because they'll just burrow under it if you just set it on top of the ground.
Mhm, mhm.
And
I think just like putting cement in the hole, making sure that at least your area is covered,
yeah.
and then they just won't go down that hole anymore.
So
Mhm.
here's I don't know, the great gurus in white robes and the ethers, you know, they say don't have regrets and try not to regret decisions. Years ago, I went to a all day thing on a Saturday called Women on Target, and it was handgun um, class on shooting guns. And each manufacturer set up these booths, and you would go around. It was $35 for the day. They fed you breakfast, gave you a raffle ticket. It was 100 women, and they split us off in 10 groups of 10, and we would rotate to these different target practicing booths where you could handle different manufacturers' guns to see which ones you liked better or whatever.
Mhm.
I had an old gun of my dad's that I took because I wanted to find out about this gun that I found in my dad's stuff. So then they break and you have lunch.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then they had this raffle pull, and I won the top prize, which was a $500 spanking new crossbow. You know, like
Wow.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
Mhm.
So at the time, so I walk up to get this box, and the lady looks at me and goes, "Do you know what to do with this?" I said, "I haven't a clue." And she says, "Well, meet me at the archery tent, after this." So I did, and they had crossbows you could shoot, and they were actually easier than the gun. And so I put it in my car. I worked at a law firm where a lot of the lawyers like to hunt. And I did a blast email, and I said, "Hey, I have this so and so and so and so retails for $499. I'm selling it for $300." So an
Mhm.
attorney bought it, and now I wished I had kept it because shooting the groundhog with an arrow wouldn't violate any kind of law around here, and that would take
You
care
can
of it.
go to Dick's and go get you the crossbow and then take it back.
With bloody arrows. It would
No,
have
no,
groundhog
no.
blood on it.
Obviously, you gotta clean it up,
Well, yeah, but I was like,
soap and
man,
water.
who would have ever thought I would want to use a crossbow to kill a groundhog in my yard? Crazy. I hope I don't see them this weekend. I tell you, I worked so hard in my yard to come out and have it like nibbled down to the ground. And I'm very, talk about tenacious cancer. I'm tenacious
Mhm.
about it. I go right back and plant them again. I've planted a couple of things 3 times.
That's why they keep coming back because you keep feeding
I
them.
know. I know. So I've been trying to put like fencing around the garden. So,
Mhm.
like,
I
um,
think a bag of cement or something. I don't know how
I
much a
think that's a
bag,
good idea.
just to so that they don't come out the freaking hole. And if they decide to reroute, then fill it back up again.
Right. Well, with the gas cylinders, what they said is you have to make sure, like, you need somebody, like, you can see where they burrow under the front side, and then there's places on the side, like, they have a little,
Mhm.
and that you want to make sure that you're gassing them from both sides wherever you see them making their burrows. So, um, this lady today at work was laughing. She said they live way out in the country, and she said we see groundhogs all the time. And she said they had a neighbor who was so country. She would get so excited if someone brought her a dead groundhog. She would fry it and eat it. And I was like, I
Yeah.
cannot imagine eating fried groundhog. Oh my God. But to her, that was like that was just great. I
That
can't
sounds
imagine
real
that.
good.
Gross. Yeah.
I'm like,
They are cute. I mean, and they're not afraid of you and they're not aggressive. I mean, they'll stand right there while I'm cutting grass and watch me. It's very weird. It's a weird dynamic we have between us, but
mhm, mhm.
I don't know. They've left peppers alone. They have
Yeah,
left
they
yellow
can't eat them.
squash alone. They've eaten all of the they ate all of the um, cucumbers mainly and celery, and something's nibbling on tomatoes, but they're not like completely destroying the plant. And then there's just these sort of wild sunflower things that they ate. So I don't know, but hopefully I'm getting that's so funny for groundhog to show up in our reading. It's so funny.
Yeah, sorry. We can go on to the next.
Okay. We're going on to Aquarius, the water bearer.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we have Pluto now. interesting energy. That's all of the artificial intelligence and unconventional revolution and
Mm. Look at this. Horse spirit, freedom is yours.
oh, I like that.
Hmm.
This is Two of Cups. This is an intertwined couple.
Oh, yeah. Freedom is yours. Free to love and be loved.
I get a kind of a heartbreaking feeling from this couple. They look like they're trying to survive some kind of emotional.
Hmm. Don't go!
Right.
uh, looks like they just had sex too. Hmm. So deep and feel like a very
Horse
yeah.
spirit, that's about power too.
Mhm.
They had makeup sex and they're trying to work it out.
Yeah.
Aquarians are hard to have intimate relationships with this. They can be very on and off, hot and cold, warm and fuzzy, and then turn around and be detached.
I don't know.
Look at his expression.
Mhm. Mhm.
He looks kind of sad, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's like holding on to her, and she's like, "I know,
And
but I
she
must."
looks kind of, doesn't she look kind of pale and sickly? Like maybe she has an illness. They just
Mhm.
got a word of, I don't know. You had horse spirit?
Yeah,
That's a
horse
good
spirit.
sign.
Freedom is yours.
You could interpret that a couple of ways. Freedom from the body, freedom from a ill body, or freedom from a relationship, or
Mhm. Freedom to choose the partnership if you want it or not. Um.
so we have the final Pisces.
Mhm. Oh God, this is the third time I've gotten this one.
Parrot spirit.
Yeah, watch your
Oh,
words.
I have the sun. Look at how pretty this is. Wait, let's see.
I can barely see that guy's head.
Yeah, he's a lot of
He's
naked
tall.
people in these cards, aren't they?
Yeah, all of them are naked. Well, almost all of them. I think some you couldn't really tell. Um,
He hardly has a butt.
I know it's just like
He looks like a frog. Look.
legs. Yeah, I'm gonna say legs.
He just needs to be a little more bow legged. He'd look just like the back of a frog. I don't know why I said that.
Well, he
Forgive me,
does.
Pisces. I'm hot and tired. My mind
Watch.
starts to get a
Hey, look.
little.
It says watch your words.
Watch your words. Yes, forgive me, Pisces. Forgive me. I love you. My dad was a Pisces, loved him to death.
Mhm.
And he had skinny little button legs like that.
Oh, okay.
We used to call him droopy drawers.
Oh, because they would fall down.
Yes, he had no butt. He could eat like a horse and never gain weight. My
Oh,
dad was
wow.
so jealous of him because we could look at something sweet and gain weight.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I still don't
Uh,
think I found that one particular piece of work this guy did. That's kind of it. I guess that's it. The kiss. Final thoughts for the weekend.
No, I'm just ready. I have a lot to do. I'm just gonna continue working on my project. My parents want me to book their flight back to United States. I have to
Oh,
look, and then
when will they come back?
they want to come back in November, and they'll stay here until February. So
Nice.
yeah, so they'll be
So,
here for some time.
so when you
Um,
say stay here, does that mean like physically where you are, or
yeah, they'll stay here with me because my brother, he come October, he's going to like RV it. like
interesting?
wow. Like he wanted to move to Idaho.
Right.
And they've looked, but I think that they're gonna RV it for a little bit to kind of see like which places are, just to kind of look around and see. But I told him, I was like, well, I don't know about you, but I don't think I could stay in an RV for months at a time. I said maybe for like a little vacation, but not to live. And then I asked my sister-in-law, and she was like, yeah, I don't mind it. It's just like every once in a while, it might get a little bit cramped. I was like, yeah, exactly. So why don't you just like get a place and then go rent you an RV and try out the whole thing. But nobody listens to me, you know. But
I had a friend, two different periods. She sold a big house, ended a long time marriage, and then just sort of rented little houses here and there. Then she decided she wanted to find some land in the country and a place to live. And she lived in another friend's yard in an RV probably a year and found some land and a really broken down house.
mm-hmm.
So she kind of planted the RV out on the land. And while she was making the house more livable, then she sold the RV. And then after probably 3 or 4 years, she decided to put this addition onto the house, and she bought this long Winnebago bus type RV, those
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really
The big
long
one.
ones.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived in that while this renovation went on. And that was not as long, that was a few months. And now it's for sale. But
The land or the house in the
the
land?
the
The
RV,
Winnebago.
the Winnebago, yeah.
Um,
It's a
yeah.
big old honker, like tour bus thing. And I've asked her a few times, well, her thing was she had her dog and she didn't want to be limited by where she could live because of having a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll tell you she just doesn't get along with people very well. She wanted to be in her own space.
Well, I'll do it.
And so, yeah, she enjoyed that. And I mean, there's a there's a
I think you can buy, because the one that my brother was looking at, it was 10 acres of land, but the house needed some work. It wasn't like a brand new house. It had a well on the property, so it had running water and stuff. As far as internet, he was considering Starlink, which he's
right,
used before. And so, like, for him, that was okay, because essentially, depending on how they would expand. Like maybe he could sell the land off one day. Who knows?
yeah,
But he's always wanted to be like he wants to be in Alaska, but his wife doesn't want to be up that far, so they settled for Idaho. And the reason why he didn't go for Washington was because of their gun laws. Like Washington has like the strictest gun laws in the whole United States. And so Idaho was like kind of like the next best option other than Oregon. But yeah, so that was like one of the things, but they don't have the land to kind of go off and on, you know.
Right.
But I know my brother was always into tiny houses, you know, and I
Yes.
know that they do make them pretty good now these days.
Yeah.
So if you do have a plot of land and you get you a tiny house, you know, maybe that's a thing, and then he
Little
can build,
homestead.
you know, build a couple tiny houses and so he can have like an Airbnb situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And a
I don't
little family compound.
Yeah, I don't know. But the I said, "Well, how far is that from the school? Because your kids need to go to school." It was a little bit out of the way. So it was probably like maybe a 20-minute drive or 30-minute, but you know, it's not close, but you know, it's doable. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I don't know, but he's still trying to figure it out.
There is a bunch of channels, like YouTube and stuff that is RV living, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I mean, they make them now. They're like $1 million condominiums.
Mhm. Yeah, he was thinking about using my car and towing the mid-size camper, and
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not that. That's like
And it's like a whole community of people that get to know each other as they travel across the country, and they have businesses that they can work out of, anywhere, to be able to have a little bit of an income, drop shipping and stuff like that. And I tell you, I wanted to look into just renting one for a trip
mhm.
to be able to take my dogs.
Yeah, renting is one thing because 'cause I've
And
seen it over in the Grand Canyon. You know, we were camping it, like, you know, pitching a tent, but we
right,
saw other people, they were just rolling up into the campsite,
right,
and it was an RV, and they were good, like, they
just
didn't have to
plug it
come
up.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, what? And then, like, like, some of the campsites, it comes with, like, a shower and
hookups.
electricity,
Yeah, yeah.
so that was an okay situation, and then my parents were looking, it's like, "Man, we should get an RV next time, look at them,
I
they're
have
doing it
no
old
idea.
school."
I guess it would depend on the size and model and everything. I don't know if it would be affordable to rent one. Like, I would just like to take a trip, maybe like out to the Grand Canyon, but like drive. Like, I would like to
Mhm.
see some of the country like that.
I think it's like $1,000 for, like, a week.
And then
Like,
the
maybe
gas and I guess
well, the gas is a
insurance.
little different, you know? I
Yeah.
don't know if it takes diesel or just regular gas, but if it's diesel, that's a different story. Cause
Yeah.
I filled up a tank of diesel, it was like 150 dollars.
Right.
But I was driving, like, the big moving truck thing, but the RV is a little bit smaller, but still it's more expensive.
They have different ones.
Mhm. I know, but anyway, um
Well, our next lunation is Thursday, July 10th, a full moon in Capricorn. And a couple of days that weekend is when Saturn stations retrograde for the summer.
mhm.
So, Saturn rules Capricorn. So, mid July is going to have a lot of that sort of stoic Saturn like energy,
Mhm, mhm,
hardworking, right?
mhm, yeah,
Structure.
mhm, I know. Even in the summer, like
That's right. I I Our office is closed July 4th, but I went ahead and took off the 3rd as well
mhm.
to have
Yeah,
like
what
a long
days does the 4th fall on?
Friday.
Oh,
So
okay.
next Friday is July 4th, and I went ahead and added Thursday off,
Mhm,
and just really to do garden stuff.
mhm,
And let's see. So that would be Let's see, that would be Friday, July 11th. Do you want to shoot for that?
Yeah. It's one day, the day after.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alrighty. Alrighty. We will just get her done like that. See what notes happen between now and then for our Puff Daddy federal court case.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, we'll
wonder how
see.
long the jury will deliberate. So, seventh house has a lot to do with the court system. I just don't think it bodes well for him.
Yeah, I overheard like a conversation he had. He says, "Thank you, Judge. You're doing a great job."
Oh, I
Or
know. Right. And like
what
he
the
has
fuck?
muffins and stuff delivered to lawyers and
And that's gonna do it? Like, I don't understand. Like, is that delusion, or is that like, or is there something behind the scenes? You know, like I don't know how to take that.
so
But this is a trial by jury, so the jury is the one. So the jury should be getting those muffins, to be honest, you know.
so let's do a little exercise here. Get our old affirmers out. So he was born in 1969 in November 4th. And when he was born, the planet Saturn was retrograde. Okay, so when he turned, let me do some math here. So if you go from uh, 5, so that's 25 days. I mean, my calculator. 25, 31. Saturn went direct 3. Oh, how interesting is this? This is what makes you love astrology. So, when you're born with a retrograde planet, it's a day for a year that you count till that planet goes direct. When a natal planet where you were born with it retrograde goes direct in your life, there's usually something really significant that happens. Now, he was born, when you said delusional, he was born with Saturn retrograde in Taurus in the third house. His mind is stubborn and stubborn to the nth degree. And I'm sure that's a very big ego, right? But
Mm,
being in the third house, retrograde Saturn, that's a difficult childhood. And his moon, when he was born, was in Virgo. And so he's age 55 now, and that moon has progressed to Aries. So that's a very sexually aggressive energy, right?
mm,
And so let's see, 24, that's 5, and 4 is 9. He's 55. Saturn stations direct at age 59 for him.
mm.
So, because we don't have an exact time, this part of his life could very well be that Saturn direct energy with his progressed moon very close by. And that would be that's a manic kind of energy. That's not a healthy mind at all.
Mm, mm,
And I don't think, I mean, I get a really bad vibe about his mother.
mhm, mhm.
I think she's probably had something to do with grooming him as a child and probably has helped him groom these young people. I just think it's a really not a healthy situation at all. And on top of that, Uranus has progressed to a 0 degree of Gemini, and that's pretty volatile. And so this part of his life is total implosion. Yeah. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So I'll see what other dirt I can dig up about his life. I don't know the dates of when the wife died or he had children, but those are all significant dates that would help kind of,
Well, you could probably find, like, the age of those kids, you
yeah.
know, and see what's significant,
Doesn't he have like four? Doesn't he have?
there's 3 girls and 1 boy, I think, right?
Okay.
I think, because I remember in the very beginning, they all walked out of the courthouse and they couldn't handle it. I'm like, "Well,
Right.
who in the why would you wanna, like, if you knew, like, the case was gonna be about something or maybe it was just too much, like, they couldn't even, like, handle it, but I don't even know if they try to go back after they walked out."
Well, there's definitely been a lifestyle of the drugs in the music industry. I think it happens in the movie making industry. You see where Harvey Weinstein, something's going on with his. He went to jail for that whole. Uh,
Oh, shit.
um,
Hello?
are you there?
Yeah, the thing, like, froze all of a sudden. You said his name and then it fucking froze. I
All right.
know.
Well, let's see. There's something going on with him. So he's serving 2 prison sentences for sex crimes. He was initially sentenced to 23 years in New York, which was later overturned on appeal, but he remains in prison due to a separate 16-year sentence in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles conviction stemmed from a 2013 incident involving an Italian actress. In New York, the retrial is currently underway. So he's being retried because one conviction was overturned, and he's on appeal with the Los Angeles, but he is in jail.
Mhm,
80
mhm.
women made allegations of sexual harassment with him. Now, what made me think about, okay, so he was the movie maker guy, right? So he's the one that would say, hey, you grant me this sexual favor, I'll get you this movie role. If you tell anybody, I'll kill your kid. No, I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's that whole, that whole, so that's very Neptunian, right? Movies and that entertainment industry, they spin a fantasy. They bring our dreams into film, and so we've had 5 major planets change signs this spring and early summer. So that's this shift of our perspectives and what we see as reality. So it's very interesting to watch all of that, I think.
Mhm, mhm.
As Judge Judy says, if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. I love
Okay,
her.
well,
I love her.
uh,
All right. Well, you get to go make dinner and take care of Luna.
mhm, mhm.
Tommy doing okay?
Yeah, I think he's hiding under the blanket. He's not hungry enough yet, I guess.
Well, I'm hot. I'm in an upstairs room that doesn't get the benefit of great AC. So I'm going to descend
Mhm, mhm,
to the lower level where it's cooler, and my dogs are probably waiting for me.
mhm.
And I want to thank everybody for your time and tuning in tonight. And um, we'll just keep our finger on the pulse of transits and progressions.
Yeah, sounds good. And thank you for being here
Thank
with us
you.
today. Yes.
I'm glad I got to the puff chart finally. How many months have I been saying I would do that? And if
Forever.
anybody would like another chart of a high profile figure looked at in one of these lives, you can email me at lionmountainhealing@gmail.com and just say, hey, Sonny, let's do Harvey Weinstein's chart. Or, if there's somebody high profile that we can watch sort of through media, it's
Mhm.
interesting to see what's going on in a chart, and then we can see like this court case or like a murder trial. Or I've been watching a murder trial that finally ended. Her name was Lori Daybell. Do you remember? So she's a serial killer, and she lived. So she was married to this guy Charles Vallow, and they had, I think, three children, but one of them was like an adopted special needs child. And I forget how long they were married, pretty good time, pretty well established family. And she gets involved with this religious cult, and a guy named, oh, what was the guy's name? Daybell was his last name. And he was a Chad. So he was this, they called them the Doomsday Murders. And he had some kind of religious cult that Lori Vallow got involved with, and then started an affair with this Chad Daybell. They, within like 2 years, Chad's wife was dead, Lori's husband was dead, and Lori's three children were found buried on Chad's property in Hawaii. And so, like, they wiped out their families so that they could be together. They're both in prison now. But then Lori Daybell's last trial that just finished a couple of weeks ago was a conspiracy to commit murder of her niece's husband. It's like they're trying to wipe out their whole family. And she represented herself. And it was just sort of comical watching this trial. She got another life sentence. So she has like 3 life sentences or something. It's ridiculous. But she's this real sort of like prima donna. They say that in prison she has this really long hair, and she wraps her hair in towels and sleeps on them, so that when she comes into court, she has, you know, very made up hair. And she petitioned the court to let her wear street clothes, since she was representing herself instead of prison jumpsuits. And I mean, she is just a piece of work, and she killed her own 3 children. Her brother conspired to kill her husband, and then he died. So, I mean, it's called the Doomsday Murders if you want to look at it. But and so now the latest thing this week is she has filed an appeal for this last conspiracy to murder her. What would her niece's husband is who it was. I don't know. He survived, but
Mm.
I mean, just incredible the amount of narcissism in people, and that's another part we haven't talked about with Pluto and Aquarius is cults resurfacing.
Hmm.
And one of the recent stories I saw repeated was the Jonestown. Remember Jim Jones and all those people in Africa that drank the poison and died? Like 100 people overnight. He had them drink grape juice that was laced with something, and they all died. And it was part of a religious cult. So Pluto in Aquarius over the next 20 years, that's part of that interpretation is we will see more cult-like behaviors and to be leery of cults or things
Hmm.
that don't present as cults but are, that kind of thing. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
anyway, okay, I could ramble on about this stuff far too much. Thank you for your tolerance and patience. And I said something at work today nobody had ever heard, so I'm going to say it here. We're going to pack our dollies and dishes and go on now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The two attorneys look at me and said, "Dollies and dishes." I've never heard that. I was like, I've said that all my life. We're going to take our dollies and dishes and we're going to go now.
No,
Have
it's an
you,
old saying,
have you
but
heard it?
it's not common. It's a very old saying.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
I kind of like it.
yeah.
All right, everybody, keep it between the lines, breathe, enjoy yourself. All right.
Okay. All right. Until next time.
See ya. Bye bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.